Hi everyone, I'm Joanne Smith, founder of Wordsmith Projects. We help businesses land more contracts by mastering the art of bids and tenders. Have you ever stared at a bid document and felt completely overwhelmed? You are not alone. Those pre-qualification questionnaires, or PQQs, can be a real roadblock. If you've not already downloaded the PQQ cheat sheet, head over to my website where you can download it for free. Today I'm going to take you through how to fill out and complete the PQQ cheat sheet. This should give you the tools to be able to complete a PQQ more efficiently, saving you more time so you can go out and win more bids. So if you go to my website, www.wordsmithprojects.com, and navigate to the blog page, there is a blog called What is a PQQ? You might want to read through all of that lovely information, and at the bottom there is a contact form. If you fill in your contact details and click download, the PQQ cheat sheet will land in your inbox, and then once it's in your inbox you need to save a copy of it for it to be editable. So I've designed the PQQ cheat sheet to be your one-stop place for all of your PQQ information. So we've already talked about what a PQQ is. Essentially it's a form that you're going to need to fill in. So I've basically created something where you can store all that information in one centralised place. So when your next PQQ comes up, it's relatively easy for you to pull all that information together. So at the beginning of the cheat sheet, on the first tab, there is an overview of the process, what is a PQQ, and how to answer a PQQ like a pro. So basically the PQQ toolkit is going to work through the actions and requirements that you will need to do to complete a PQQ. So we've essentially created a PQQ bid library for you, and we're also going to show you how to organise your documentation and then the things that you need to do to keep that up to date, because the PQQ bid library is a working document, a document in progress, so you will need to make sure that it is maintained and up to date. If you come across a PQQ question that you can't answer, don't panic, we've all been there. The first thing that you can do simply is reach out to the procurement team and ask them a clarification question, or you can reach out and ask an external specialist to help. So the PQQ bid library is essentially where you're going to store all of your high-level company information. So I've broken this down into 4 different key areas for you. So you've got your company information. So for example, we would type in Wordsmith Projects. Sometimes you might have a different trading name, so you can put that in, and you would work down. You would input your company registered address. I'm in Burton-on-Trent. Your website, your company registration number, the date your company formed. If you don't know some of that information, you can nip across to the Companies House website and that information is there. So we would essentially fill in that first column. Then we move across to the financials. So as I said, the PQQ is a way of a buyer testing that your business is commercially viable. So all of this information in terms of turnover, gross profit, cost of sales, all of this you can find quite easily on your company accounts. But for example, let's say our turnover was £120,000, our cost of sales was £50,000, and our profit after tax was £30,000. It's really as simple as that, and this information is easily found on your company accounts. The next important step is we need to list out our accreditations. So with any buyer, they will generally want to see specific industry accreditations in place. So the easiest one that comes to mind to think of would be ISO 9001. So we would input the accreditation name. For ISO 9001, there may not be a membership number as such. It may be something like UCAS, because there are different companies that offer this accreditation, and obviously you need to include when it's going to expire, because this is a good reminder to obviously not let things expire. Other ones that spring to mind would be something like CHAS or construction line. These will have a membership number, and also remember to include your expiration date. And I can't spell when I'm typing today. So moving across to statistics. These are typically your health and safety statistics. Depending on the type of industry that you are in, you may be asked to provide this information. So total number of incidents, let's say that's 2, your accident rate per 100 employees, lost time accidents, whether you've had to report anything to RIDO, hopefully that's going to be a 0, and so on and so forth. And you generally have to go back and provide 2 or 3 years worth of statistics for this particular area. So the PQQ bid library element is probably going to be relevant for every single PQQ because it is your high-level company information. You will be asked about your financials and you will need to supply your accreditations. The only thing that may not be relevant to your business is the health and safety statistics, because that depends on the industry that you're in. So the document folder is not necessarily something that you need to fill in like the PQQ bid library tab. It's really there to explain the types of documentation that you might need to provide with a PQQ. So I've tried to include every single document that I can think of that you may need to provide, but just to be aware that there'll be some documents in there that are not relevant to your business and you won't need to provide them. But I've tried to be as comprehensive as I can. So when we're attaching documents, we need to make sure that we reference them correctly. So for example, if the PQQ question 4.2 is attach your financial accounts, then you need to reference that question 4.2, your company name and your financial accounts. This will make it easier for the evaluator to find your documentation within your PQQ. So, typical information that you will need to provide: your company registration certificate, your VAT registration certificate, your business structure details, for example. When we come across to finances, it will be your latest audited financial accounts if you legally have to have your accounts audited. This will generally be for the last 2 or 3 years. If not, you may well need to provide profit and loss statements, balance sheets, credit rating report, that kind of thing. When we move to the next section, which is insurance certificates, obviously this is fairly self-explanatory. You need to provide evidence of your professional indemnity, public liability, employees' liability insurance. There could well be some others depending on what industry you're in. This might be cybersecurity certificate, construction all risks insurance. But essentially it's the insurance that you have to be able to provide the services that you provide. So the next section is policies and procedures. So again, depending on what you're bidding for and who the buyer is, you may not necessarily have to provide loads, but you may have to provide loads. So be aware. And these might be health and safety policy, environmental policy, quality management policy, social value policy, safeguarding policy. So you get the drift. There are lots of different policies that a company will have, so you can make sure that you've got all those copied into the folder. Make sure that they are in date. Policies are generally reviewed annually, so make sure that they're in date and they have been signed by the relevant person in your business, because generally buyers like to see that policies are reviewed annually and signed off at senior level. And the final thing in the document library is certificates and accreditations. So we've already listed these in our PQQ bid library, so we already know what we've got. Now we need to keep a copy of the digital certificate in the document folder, so they're all in one place and easy to find when you need to attach them to your PQQ. So again, as with all of the other elements in the document library, make sure they're in date and they haven't expired. So yes, not all of the document library may be relevant to you. When the PQQ lands, you'll see straight away the types of documents that you need to put in place. So use that as your guide. But moving on to the next section, which is experience and capability. This is one that usually sort of worries some of my clients, because generally in a PQQ, you have to be able to show that you've delivered a similar sized contract within the last 3 years, and you have to provide 3 examples. This is the buyer wanting to know that you can actually do what you say you can do, and they will contact these businesses that you put down to make sure that you have actually delivered what you say you can deliver. So it's a bit like a job reference, really. So first and foremost, if you are going to put a business down for a contract that you've delivered, check with them that they are happy to be contacted, because I have known bids in the past win, and then because the buyer's not been able to contact the reference, they've withdrawn that award. So always check first, in the same way that you would if you were going to ask somebody to provide a job reference for you. So I'm obviously going to make something up to provide an illustration of how to fill the form in. So I'm obviously with the wonderful Daniel Dennis today, who is doing all of this videoing for us. So I'm going to put Daniel Dennis in as the name of the customer. So we're going to use Daniel Dennis as an example of a contract that we've delivered. So we've input Daniel Dennis. We are Wordsmith Projects. We are the supplier. And I still can't time when somebody's watching. Point of contact in the customer organisation. So this is who the buyer is going to reach out to. So of course, in this instance, we're going to say Daniel Dennis, and Daniel is the owner. We would then go on to put Daniel's contact details in, description of the contract. So this is a brief overview of what you've delivered. You don't need to go into war and peace, but let's, for example, say, obviously that's not a really great example, but you get the general idea. We want a brief description of the contract, the services that you delivered. That's really what we're looking for. We need to know the contract start date. So let's say it was the 3rd of March 2024. When it ended, it was a 12-month contract. So 3rd of March 2025. And what was the contract value? And that was 120k. We wish. So it might feel like a bit of a faff having to put this information in 3 different times, but once it's there, you don't have to do it again. Obviously, when you get to the end of the 3-year period, you need to insert another one in, but it's all there in a central place. You can just cut and paste it across into your PQQ when you're applying for it. The subcontractor tab is there for you to store all your subcontractor information. So if you're not using subcontractors, then obviously you don't need to fill this tab in and you can ignore it. But quite a few clients that I work with do use subcontractors to deliver some of the services. So again, it's very similar to the PQQ bid library in terms of the information that you need to find and provide, but it's based on the subcontractor and not on you. So you will obviously need to know the name of your subcontractor. You'll need to know the registration number, their head office address, trading status, VAT number, that kind of thing. So again, a lot of this information is already freely available on the Companies House website, but you should also be able to get this information directly from your subcontractor. And again, it's just you do it the once, and then you've got all the information. It's stored in the PQQ cheat sheet, and you can just cut and paste it across into your PQQ when you're ready to apply. So the checklist really is the bit at the end, just to make sure it's your check, to make sure that you've completed everything and you've gathered all of the documentation that you need. Quite often within the actual PQQ itself, there will be a checklist at the end. I'm a big fan of checklists and making sure that you've ticked all the boxes, dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's. But it basically is, have you answered all the questions? Yes or no? Are all the necessary attachments included and referenced properly? Have you got all your policies, insurance and accreditations, and are they all current? And then do a full and complete review before you submit to check for any errors or omissions. And that really is it, your full-on PQQ cheat sheet. You've now seen how to effectively use the PQQ cheat sheet. Don't let those pesky PQQs hold you back. Take action today. Download your free copy by clicking the link in the description or by going to www.wordsmithprojects.com. This resource will give you the edge you need to get through the first stage so you can go on to create compelling submissions and win more contracts. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.